When you visit county historical museums, the first thing you realize is that there's no two that are alike. So often the museums, the nature of the museum is determined by what kind of building they have, and we have been very fortunate in the building we have, and the property we have has been very expandable. We've added on to this building 2 different times. We've purchased additional property 2 different times. We have 20 acres here now, and we have about 15,000 square feet of exhibit space. We have such an enormous variety of things. We have something like 45 or 50 different topics regarding the history of our county. So for quite a number of years, 45 years or so, we didn't have a museum or a building of our own. The museum came about as a result of the Historical Society need for a facility where we could show all the things that we had collected about our history over the years. Our Knox County Historical Society actually began in 1941 and 42 when a group of 8 or 9 local people got together and decided that it would be a good idea to start a Knox County Historical Society. By the middle 1980s, it was clear that we were ready to have a museum, and so we had a little bit of money. We got a matching grant from the Cooper Investment Corporation here in town that gave us enough money to buy the original part of the building that we're in now. That was 30 years ago, and over the past 30 years we've expanded this building several times. So the society officially began 75 years ago in 1941-42, but it has grown dramatically in the last 35 or 40 years. We keep finding new things to talk about. We have an amazing collection of things on businesses that have been here in Knox County over the past 200 years. We have things about sports and lodges, fraternal lodges, the Masons, the Oddfellows, Elks, Eagles, all those kinds of groups. Just an enormous, endless kind of variety of things. Just about all the items we have here at the museum have been donated to us. We have purchased a few things, not very many. Some of our members have purchased some things either at local auctions or on eBay from time to time that were associated with Knox County history and donated them to us. The Ford Thunderbird, 64 Ford Thunderbird that belonged to the actor Paul Lynde was owned by a local person here who had purchased it from the sister of Paul Lynde. After Paul passed away, he left the car to his sister. Changed hands a few times, and then a local photographer here in Mount Vernon, John Seavold, who did the restoration on the car, did a beautiful job of restoring it. Drove it for a few years himself and then decided to part with it, and one of our members purchased it from him and then put it here at the museum. The car is probably the most expensive item that's been purchased by members and made available to the museum, but we get various kinds of items routinely. Hardly a week goes by that somebody doesn't bring in interesting items. The good people of Knox County give us things. Our military history exhibit is made up of uniforms that were worn by Knox County military people that served in, for the most part, World War II or Korea, sometimes the Vietnam War. And these are people that generally have recently passed away, and the family needs to find a home for their uniform. So they've given us quite a few of those, and often we ask if they have a picture of the person in question who wore the uniform that they could give us along with the uniform, and we put those two things together. So the folks in Knox County have been very good to us about giving us items for the collection. We have all kinds of visitors. Probably the biggest single group that we have every year is usually in May of each year. All the third graders in the Mount Vernon schools come visit the museum, tour the museum school by school. Pleasant Street and Twin Oaks School have maybe 60 or 65 third graders in their school. The other schools usually have closer to 20 or 30 in their group, and they have studied a unit on local history before they come to the museum. So they're pretty familiar with local history before they come, We talk a little bit about local history when they first arrive, and then we tour the museum. So that's probably the biggest single group. But we do have other groups, church groups and scout groups, 4-H'ers, homeschoolers that come to the museum as a group. I have some high school students, and some I've had students from the Nazarene University come. There's a class in that touches on museum organization of some sort, and the professor brings his class not every year, but maybe every other year to the museum. But aside from groups, we have just people that walk into the museum during our open hours, and many are local people who frequently tell me they've driven by the museum many times and keep saying, oh, someday I must stop and see the museum, and then eventually they do. Other times we have people from out of town. Again, sometimes people just driving by the museum but who live a distance away, or just traveling up Route 3 and see our open sign and stop in. And then other times we have people from a distance who maybe are doing family history and need to do some research on their ancestors, and they will call us ahead of time, tell us when they're going to be in the area, make sure when we're open and that we know they're coming, and we prepare for their visit. So we get all kinds of people. Next year, in January, we'll have kind of a small celebration. That would be the anniversary of the establishment of our charter as an organization 75 years ago in 1942, and then in June of next year, 2017, will be the 75th anniversary of the first official meeting, the monthly meetings and the programs that the Historical Society has had. So those are two really big things. We also have a local person, Dr. Laura Lee Porter, who's a retired history professor, chairman of the department at Muskingum University, who is native of Mount Vernon, and she's written a book about an actress, famous actress that lived here in the 1800s, Lizzie Evans. She's going to be doing a program for us. We have several other interesting programs next year. So I think next year is going to be a busy year. We're going to have all kinds of, for us, unusual activities and interesting programs. And we try to reach out to Kenyon and Nazarene universities to keep the students and the faculty posted as to activities that we're doing here. So there's really no end to that, but celebrating our 75th anniversary as a society and our 30th anniversary for the museum is, I think, kind of a major accomplishment. We're very proud of that.